Welcome to Soul Night Live, episode number 76. Today, our guest is legendary concert promoter Danny Zelisko.
Hi there.
Hey, Danny. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for dropping by the show today. I appreciate you dropping in.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Excellent.
What's that? Where are you?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
I love Georgia.
I kind of dig it too. Been down here for about 20 years now. And
Yeah. Do you know Charlie Brusco?
I know that name, but I don't know him personally.
He lives in, where does he live? Well, he's not in Atlanta. Let me look. But he manages Styx.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah. I've had some friends that have worked for their management team over the years. My keyboard player was
Alpharetta. He lives in
there we go.
Alpharetta.
Sure. Yeah, that's the nice area up north there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, great place. Yeah, my keyboard player was their web guy for a few years. So yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Dig some
Cool.
Sticks. And you're from Chicago originally, right? So they're kind of like
Correct.
hometown boys in a way, you know? That's very
Yeah,
cool.
for sure. I saw them there when I was a little kid before I knew them. Pretty amazing.
Well, that's going way back then, huh? Like
Oh boy.
mid 70s.
Early 70s, late 60s.
Wow.
Late 60s.
Wow. They're just getting rolling. That's back when they were writing about the plexiglass toilet and all those other early tunes they did.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming by. I'm really loving the book. And as I was reading it, a few things kind of connected with me that I realized we had in common. For starters, I lived out in Phoenix in the early 90s. So I'm sure I've been to a lot of the shows that you put on over the years. And I'm a big prog rock fan and fusion.
Nice.
Pretty much that's most of the people that watch my show tune in for that because that's the kind of guest that I chat with. Like last weekend, I was chatting with Jerry Goodwin from Mahavishnu.
I saw that on there. I knew
Cool.
Jerry from Chicago, and I haven't seen him in a long time. I would love to get a hold of him if you can share an email with me or something.
I will make it happen. Absolutely.
That would be great. I'd love to. We haven't talked in at least 10 or 15 years. You know, the last time I talked to him, I was in Las Vegas. I don't know what he was. I can't remember why he was there, if it was a show. But him and his brother were developing some light up coasters for cocktails.
Oh, okay.
And I still have one. It doesn't work anymore. But it's like it when you sat the drink down and it went down about a quarter of an inch and it would go on, and when you picked it up, it would go off. And it was a way to know which drink was yours. You would carry it with you to a bar, and I did it for a while. It was fun.
Okay. That makes me think of the coaster they give you at Panera while you're waiting for your order to get ready. You know, the one that buzzes and lights up.
Same kind of thing.
Yeah, I always joke and go, "Hey, here's my coaster," you know. So, tell us a bit about the inspiration for the book. I imagine you've got a scrapbook this thick, and it was.
There's a lot of scrapbooks. I've been saving stuff, ever since I was a kid, and it's like I had this wild idea or dream that I would be able to have a museum to put everything up, and I could curate it and show everybody everything I've saved over the years, because for normal people, nobody cares. But for people who go to baseball games or football games or go to concerts, people that are big fans of live events, they love having souvenirs and they love having stuff to bring home from that to remember it with. And some of the pieces are so great, you even put it on your wall. Sure. And you keep it forever until your mom or dad walks in the room when you're not looking and throws it out on you. Now, my parents never did that, fortunately, but I know so many kids who have lost, cartoon and comics and magazine collections and baseball cards and stuff like that for whatever reason. What people have done with people's collections. But I love all that stuff because it represents memories, and the same thing when you're going to a concert. You go to a concert, it creates new memories. Who you went with, what happened at the show, was it a good show, a bad show, and all the stuff that happens in between leaving home and getting back home again. That's why I'm doing, and why I chose to do what I did, because I used to love to go to baseball games, and I love to go to football games, but I wasn't going to be a baseball player, and I wasn't going to be a football player, and I was never, I don't know, I never thought of a job or an occupation in sports. Like if I was looking back right now, maybe there was a spot where I could have done something like that. But when you're a kid, you don't know what's ahead. You don't know what you're going to do. You don't know why. But somewhere along the lines in the late '60s, I came across, certain new things that were foreign to me, like Pink Floyd and Tie Stick. You know what I mean?
It's a great combo.
Great combo. And it's like, that's how I discovered Uma Guma. A friend of mine had me smoke some Tie Stick and left it on and left me in a pile of, oil afterwards. It was just, a moving moment. My dad was the one that discovered me passed out, and the rest, we'll leave that alone. But I got very, very heavily into progressive rock music in the late '60s, early '70s, on a trip to Lake Geneva one night. And they told me that there was people in the area taking LSD. I didn't personally see it, of course. And somebody put on In the Court of the Crimson King, which I'd never heard.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
Game changer.
That first,
total game changer right there.
First song alone would just melt your face,
Oh, and it did. It did. Somebody had it on in a van with big speakers in the distance, and it was the most miraculous thing I'd ever heard. And they kept it on. They played it all night long, and nobody cared. It was just magnificent. So chalk me up as a Crimson fan, and then I got to see them in '71. They opened for Humble Pie at the auditorium in Chicago, and they added them after the show was sold out for Humble Pie. Special guest added just now, King Crimson. Out of my mind.
Oh wow!
It was when Frampton quit Pie, and for us Crimson fans, it was an obnoxious show.
Yeah. Was that like
even though I liked Humble Pie, I did not want to hear Humble Pie after King Crimson, which I failed to do, and I left immediately when they got off stage. And I regret that in retrospect, because I love Steve Marriott, and he's also great. And in those days, back in those days of going to shows like Crimson, like ELP, Pink Floyd, their early shows, they didn't do so well, but it was the second play for every one of them where they headlined and sold out the same building or a bigger one, and just went on from there. Floyd was one of my all-time favorites. I managed to cause a tape to be made of the last show I saw them do in '72 in the auditorium, which turned out to be an advanced copy of Dark Side of the Moon a year early. And my version smokes the album.
Oh yeah.
It's the way you should hear Pink Floyd. 4 guys, no horns, no chicks.
Right.
4 guys, music, period. And it's fascinating, and it's also fascinating to hear what they did with that record and finally turned it out as the album Dark Side. It was called Eclipse when I heard it. And it's magic, the way that they could come out on stage and play it live a year before they actually put it out, and then put out almost a completely different sounding record with the same songs. Just genius to me. And it's that kind of stuff that kept endearing me before I promoted a show to stay after that. I mean, it's like I was so intensely into the music and what was coming out every week in the '70s, early '70s. There was another great album coming out. All of the bands from England, especially, the Soft Machine and Caravan,
Sure.
Gong, and Gentle Giant, Vandergraaf Generator, Bring It Baby, some PFM,
Sure.
Robert Wyatt and Man from Wales. I mean, I loved all these groups, and I got to promote just about every one of them. I got to promote Go. I got a Go show once. Stomo Yamashita and Go.
No way.
Unbelievable. Michael Shreve was on drums. I mean, cut it out. So musically speaking, I mean, for a guy into it like I am, becoming a promoter was a very good idea. And then the thing you learn along the way is how to pay attention to bands you don't necessarily care for, at least at first. And then you realize you can make money with them and do good business with them. And they turn out to be really nice people and you become a fan.
Sure.
You name it, we've done it, and we'll continue to do so. I'm looking forward to us returning to having shows again.
Yeah. Well, hopefully by the end of this year, we can kind of get back in the groove,
I'm believing you're right there. I think it'll happen. I know some people are talking about the summer. I hope they're right. I'm not going to say they're not, but I don't know any better than they do. I'll call it Labor Day.
Yeah.
I'm going with Labor Day for now.
September-ish, August.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, fingers crossed, it's all, some different folks have gotten out there and done some of these kind of parking lot kind of shows.
It's not a show.
Yeah, it seems very restrained.
That's keeping your chops up. And I don't mind, go ahead, do what you got to. I mean, anybody can do what they want to do. If they want to do concerts on the internet, great. If I was a manager of a group, I would probably be having my group do that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But I promote live shows, and I don't want to reinvent the wheel.
Sure, I hear you, because this will pass, and we can just go back to the way we were doing it. So just a matter of time then. Can you give us a little insight on what a promoter does? I mean, the word promote is obvious, but there's more to it than that.
Yeah, that's why, with that wild cover that I have there for the book, promoters don't necessarily always look like that, but that particular night I was very happy because that was the parking money from a Pink Floyd concert.
Oh, wow. What year?
That was 88.
Okay. Yeah. Delicate Sound.
My security guy told me that we should rent out the parking lots around the stadium because we were going to put 25,000 people in there, and they only had parking for 8,000 because it was a minor league ballpark. And he was right, and I was stupid for not thinking of that myself. But I said, absolutely, let's do it. We did it, and there was all that money. I made more money off the parking than I made on the concert.
I bet.
So I'm really glad we did that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Was that show in Arizona as well? In 88?
That show is in Arizona. And it was at a time where I just had a kid, and it was the end of my first real decade of being a concert promoter, and the next decade was the biggest. It was incredible. It was amazing, to have all the background by then that was going on, where it would even occur to me to take that picture and keep it because I love that picture. But it really says it all. I mean, the concert promoter is your curator, for live music. A good concert promoter will try to get you the best night of the week to put the show on, but don't be mad at the promoter when it comes on a Monday or Tuesday night, because all it means is the building might not have been available on the weekend that you wanted to book it, or they're playing in another city that might be more important than yours for some reason, and they had a weekend book there. So we have to schedule the night of the week. We got to schedule the place that it plays. We got to come up with the ticket price that the group agrees with. We got to pay the band what they want to get paid. And then we got to hire all the stagehands and the security and the ushers. You got to buy insurance in case somebody gets hurt at the show. You got to advertise the show. You got to run the box office and sell all the tickets.
Sure.
What a promoter doesn't do is at the show is I don't sell the T-shirts and I don't sell the beer and I don't sell the hot dogs. That's what the building does. They sell all that stuff. Everything else to do with the show is me.
Sure.
So if I have a show and 3,000 seat place and you see about half the people in the building and the other half is empty, I'm somewhere licking my wounds. I'm somewhere having a hard time. Now, if the show looks almost full, chances are I'm laughing or smiling somewhere.
Sure.
And if it's really full and you can't buy a ticket, you know, we're rocking it. And, you know, everything's great. The bottom line is you don't have to sell every last ticket to make money on a concert, but it sure helps.
Sure. Heck yeah.
You know, I mean, what a promoter also does is he has to be wary of other promoters bringing in shows that book the same night that you do.
Sure.
Sometimes you don't know. And, you know, it's happened to everybody. I mean, where somebody you really want to see comes in after you've already bought tickets for another show. What do? I have the same problem. I got to pay both of them, and they both expect to see me at the show, and I want to be there. So, I mean, it creates quite a puzzle. And anyway, it's great. That's a great problem to have.
Sure.
Having more than one show in a night is a great problem to have, especially when they're sold.
Absolutely.
But that's what a promoter does. The bottom line is, at the end of the night, I have to pay everybody that was there working on that show. And when it's all said and done, hopefully I've got some money left over. And if I don't, it's tough toenails and I'm on to the next show.
Exactly.
Oh, and you can't do that too many times in a row or you go out of business.
Sure. Absolutely.
That's how it works. Just like any other business.
Absolutely.
You got to pay your bills.
And you're still based in Phoenix, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, a concert promoter when you promote, you kind of take care of a certain territory. Like Phoenix is your hood per se, right?
Typically.
You guys ever branch out and do other cities and stuff too?
Yes, absolutely. In the last 10 years, I haven't counted. I need to count that up so I know. But we've done shows. I did a bunch of shows. Linda Ronstadt went out and did some spoken word shows a couple of years ago. These are the last public events she's ever going to do. So I was really, really happy and proud to put those on. We did those in Nevada, Arizona, California, and New Mexico. We did about 6 or 7 of her final shows there. We were going to do more, but her Parkinson's was just too much for her, and she couldn't travel anymore. But she's so dear. I wrote her a note the other day after she won the Grammy for her show, her documentary.
Oh, that was
and
great.
She wrote me back. She's very nice. What else? I do Alan Parsons all over the country.
Love Alan Parsons.
I love Alan Parsons.
Bucket list for me.
We're great friends, and he's a fascinating guy, and I just love talking to him, and I enjoy him a lot. Frankie Valli is another guy I do a lot of shows with, which is great. I mean, he was one of my first pop star idols. You know, I mean,
Legend.
Who was cooler than Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons in the early 60s? I mean, they were it. I mean, the Beatles came along and knocked them out of number 1.
Yeah.
That's who did it.
Did you see that Jersey Boys show that was kind of based on them?
Oh, well, it's very based on them. Yeah. I love the play, was fantastic. And I liked the movie. Frankie didn't like the movie, but I thought the movie was a good representation. And the thing that I liked about it the most was it helped tell his story so that we could sell concert tickets. I mean, there's still a lot of guys from the 60s, 70s around that a lot of people today wouldn't be familiar with if somebody wasn't playing their music or somebody wasn't writing a book or doing a movie about them. Sure. And and this was one of the cases. I do a lot of shows with Jackson Browne. We're doing a bunch with him in the fall. Awesome. I used to do a lot of Little Feat shows back in the day. One of my favorite bands. I don't know if I hope some version of them with Kenny Gradney and Billy Payne will come out, Sam Clayton. But we just lost Paul Barrere, who was such a sweet soul and a good friend. I hated that. And Richie Hayward was years ago. But what a great band Little Feat was. I mean, that's one of the great American progressive rock bands. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think people don't realize how prog they are until they dig
down on the farm, man. I just love them. So yeah, I get around the Southwest mostly, But then there's these groups where I go. I used to do John Prine everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
We went all over the country together for years. There's these guys who you just feel really comfortable with personally, as well as able to promote, and you get it. And it's like with these acts, I can go pretty much into any town and put on a show and do well with it. And as long as I can do that, I mean, that keeps me interested and excited in this. I love doing shows in Phoenix, and I love doing shows in Vegas. That's where I've done predominantly the larger bulk of the shows. But I find that it's so much fun. There's a great country out there. And I don't want to just pop into a city and leave the next day. Been to Minneapolis a bunch of times, started doing shows in Denver. What a great city that is.
Yeah.
You know, and Colorado Springs, we're doing Frankie Valli in both of those soon. You know, there's all these people that want to see these shows. And while they're not everybody's cup of tea, most of the shows I do are those ones that kind of across the board are respected and very well liked, if not revered. And because, you know, when you're traveling from miles and miles away to promote something, you're not living there. You don't know what's going on day to day. You got to have a solid client. You got to have a great partner there in the building and the band in order to make it work, because there's so many things that can go sideways.
Sure.
But the way things are these days, the bands and the halls and the promoters, the agents, everybody has history of how to get in and out of these towns and the local nuances of everything. So there's not as many surprises anymore. Usually it takes something really freaky to set something sideways. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And it happens very, very rarely. Like, say, the last year. Happens very rarely.
Sure.
I'm ready for it to be over, okay?
Oh, me too. Me too.
Oh,
I need
God.
some live music. I need to get out and just play, for one thing. But
A year ago this week.
yeah, well, that's
A year
enough of
ago
that.
yesterday.
You know, so fingers crossed we can wrap it up by summer. But
Yep.
we'll see. Yeah,
I'm with you.
COVID. No doubt. So one of the first stories you had in your book was about you posing as a roadie for Yes. I was wondering if you could retell that one for my viewers.
Well, I don't recommend people do this because you can get in big trouble doing it, but I did it and got away with it. It was very simple. I thought it was very innocent at the time. The night before the Yes concert that happened, and it was Alan White's third show.
Yeah, close to the Edge tour then. Yeah.
Bill Bruford had just quit.
Right.
So, and I didn't know who Alan White was, and I love Bill Bruford. I mean,
yeah.
who doesn't love
Right.
Bill?
Exactly. And everything he's
know.
done is just gold, you know, everything he's touched, pretty much.
Man's got a lot of integrity, and what a great guy. And from the first time I met him, he always remembered me, and we keep in touch now. Which I like doing. I want to.
I think he's one of the most articulate guys in progressive rock. You know,
he is, and it's a shame. It's a shame that he retired from drumming, because a lot of people didn't get to see him play live. But you can see him on movies, and he's fantastic.
Oh, sure. Really.
Anyway, why did I start talking about Bill? Oh, the Yes show.
Because he just quit.
So the guy from the Allman Brothers, Twigs, told me, go the next day, go to the next show, pick out a show, and just go on the truck and start humping gear. Mm-hmm. So I did. And it just occurred to me when I was there, how do I explain why I'm here? So when I came down the ramp and there's one of the local guys there, equipment guys, I talked to him in an English accent and he bought it. So I did that all day long, back and forth. And I tried to stay away from any of those guys. And it wasn't like I was needed or I was anything technical, but because I was helping and moving just as a body, moving stuff, I was welcome to stay. I mean, but I didn't get in anybody's way and I kept my trap shut. And they ended up feeding me breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which was the greatest part of the day for me, because I was very hungry and broke. And I got busted at dinner for having been there without an invitation or insurance or being hired or anything like that. But they let me stay because I was okay. And, you know, and it goes back to the whole thing of fitting in. You got to fit in. You got to not make waves when you don't belong somewhere.
Sure.
You got to act like you belong so you can belong.
Sure. And am I right that Bill Graham's the one that kind of busted you in the middle of?
Oh yeah. Who's this kid? Who the hell belongs to this kid? Had me by my shirt. And he goes, oh, that's Cisco. He's with Yes. No, he's not with us, is he? He's with you. Uh-oh.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and like I said, at the time, I didn't think anything of it. It was just kind of like one of those things you do. And it's taken on this meaning, over the years, because I never forgot it. When you write a book, there's these things that you talk about with people all your life. And it's not like you got to go back and remember everything. You've been telling the same sad stories for dozens of years. And every time you tell it, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And now the fish is this big,
Right.
I would say for the most part, everything you read in that book is pretty much true. I don't know, like I said, I've been telling the stories for so long. I don't know which ones I lied in or not.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I believe it all.
They're all lies.
They're all true.
Yeah.
So, a couple questions about what are your favorite venues in Phoenix, and have they changed over the years?
Well, sure. Going from the top, we got three stadiums actually. I've done shows in all three of the stadiums. I find the baseball park to be the most comfortable.
Is that the one they built out in Peoria about 15 years ago?
No, out in Glendale, they built the Cardinal Stadium.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And the Cardinal Stadium it's gorgeous and it's beautiful and it's huge. It's like the biggest place in the world. I mean, you could fit Wrigley Field inside of this place, maybe two of them. It's so huge.
That's wild.
So, but for a concert with a roof that opens and there's a hole in the middle of the roof, it's weird. I think it's a little strange for sound, and it's so big. I like the baseball park the best for concerts. For arenas, there's two really good arenas, three good arenas there. There's one that doesn't get used at ASU anymore, basically, but the arena downtown where the Suns play is a great arena because they built it for basketball instead of hockey. So it means the opposite wall from the stage is maybe about 20 or 30 feet closer than the hockey arena.
Okay.
And it makes a big difference in terms of the shape of the arena and the size inside. So for an arena, the basketball arena has a much smaller floor than the hockey arena, which makes for a more concise sound. Because I mean, let's face it, concerts were never meant to be held in hockey arenas,
right,
or basketball arenas. I mean, they should be held in auditoriums. But the thing is, these groups get so big, they need bigger places, or they're going to be on the road their whole lives.
Sure.
In terms of auditoriums, I mean, the Celebrity Theater for the midsize theater in the round is one of the best concert experiences you can ever have, because you're so close to the stage.
Oh yeah.
When you go to a concert, you want to hear and see perfectly, and you can do that at this theater.
I think
it's very difficult to do that at a proscenium theater.
Sure.
Because if you're anywhere past halfway back, you're far away and you're not seeing that guy's face. No. You're not seeing the look on his face when he hits that note of yours, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I like the Celebrity. But other than that, you got beautiful performing arts centers there. There's about a dozen of them. The Gamage Auditorium and Mesa Arts and the Orpheum, they're all beautiful, beautiful places. And there's some great clubs there. The Van Buren was a new place you probably haven't seen. Holds almost 2,000. And then another one called the Crescent, which holds 500. My friend Charlie Levy owns those. He used to work for me. There's another metal place called the Marquee, and that guy used to work for me as well, who owns that one. And Live Nation is there, who I compete with. And I hired everybody at Live Nation because I worked there up until 10 years ago. And then I left to start over again, and they're still there, and they're still kicking ass. I mean, they will be when they can do shows.
Sure.
and you know, I'm still getting between all these shows around the country and locally. Been averaging about 125 shows a year for the last 10 years, which is very doable. That's still one show every 3 days, which is a lot. But most of they tend to get grouped up. But I'll tell you what, when the shows start up again, we're going to be out and busy a lot of nights out of a lot of months at first, because all we've been doing for the last year is moving shows in the calendar a few weeks, a few months ahead until they can play. And thankfully, most people have held on to their tickets because they want to see their shows.
Sure, absolutely.
So if they're going to hold on to their tickets, I'm going to stick around. I'm going to put those shows on.
Sure, absolutely. Well, yeah. The basketball arena, is that the one that was America West?
Yeah.
Originally, that's what it's called. I think I might have seen one of the first shows there. I want to say it was like Aerosmith in 90 or so, maybe. Or
maybe. I think the first couple shows in there, I think Metallica was the very first.
Black Album. I was at that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the very first. And then
That must have been it.
Springsteen also played there in that first week or two.
Yeah. And how about Desert Sky? Is that still Desert Sky out there? Or
Desert Sky is still there. It's not called Desert Sky. I think it's called Auction Casino. It's, you know, a casino amphitheater. But there's no casino there. They just bought the naming rights.
Did you catch Yes there in 91 when they did that double union tour with the super 8-man lineup?
I'm sure I did that show.
Yeah.
I honestly, oh, look at this, Jerry Goodman. Hey, Danny, caught your chat. He just,
There he is. All right.
he just wrote to me. That's so funny. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's still there. Live Nation books that. Every now and then I get allowed to put a show on there, even though I opened it with Billy Joel 30 years ago. But you know, every now and then I can go there.
Yeah, I remember that place. It's like every time they did a show, they carve a little granite plaque and stick it in the ground out front. I imagine they quit doing that a long time ago. But
you know, I couldn't tell you.
yeah, you know, I remember going through there and going, "Oh, I was at that show and that show and that show." I remember seeing Van Halen there and much of
Oh
it.
yeah.
And then, you know, the thing, Vets Coliseum, you know, it's a kind of a cool deal in Phoenix where you can just buy a ticket to the fair and see a concert for free. And you mean,
Yeah.
the year I was doing that was like Nirvana on their last tour, Joe Satriani. I saw Leonard Skinner. That's just a few that come to mind, and that's a great.
Yeah, I had a great time. I had a great time booking that place for like 30 something years.
Did they renovate it any since the 90s?
Pardon me?
Did they renovate it any since the 90s?
Oh, hell no. No, they've been threatening to tear that place down for 20 years.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, they were going to have a state fair last year, but obviously they couldn't. I don't know what their plans are for this year, but I imagine they're still in business. I don't book that anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I always thought it looked like a big Pringles potato chip. The big.
And it does. You're right.
Definitely. So I was wondering if you could tell us a few more stories from your book. You had a hand in naming Lollapalooza with Perry Farrell. How'd that come about?
Well, one night after a show, he and I were out, as we were prone to do. And it was very late, and we were bouncing ideas back and forth when he brought up this notion of putting together something that would be bigger than a show, and not just a show, but a gathering or an event, a gathering of the tribes. And the test was to come up with a word that would summarize what it was he wanted to do. And he said jamboree, and I said, that sounds like a Boy Scout troop thing.
Right.
You can't, jamboree is not going to get it. And the word Lollapalooza came out, and honestly, I can't remember who said it, but I know that we both agreed immediately that was it. And that's what he went forward with. I mean, I really should have said, you know, I'm in on this, right? You know, like I got a piece.
Yeah.
But you know what happened was he stuck in there with it like his partners did. They did that show for a few years. I don't remember how many, but they did it for a few years and then stopped because it just wasn't doing well. And they stopped it for a while, and then C3 out of Austin resurrected it. And I think they first started doing it in South America and created a huge stir with it down there. And of course, with the social media, it all came back up here to America. and they got a second life. I mean, festivals were not. I mean, people tried to do festivals in the '90s. There was the Lollapalooza, and there was the Horde Festival. Remember that?
The jam band thing, yeah.
The jam band thing, which would have gone over great if they had waited a few years, but it just didn't resonate everywhere the way that it did later. And what was happening at that point was you also had Coachella getting into business, and Bonnaroo was a little bit later than that, and you had all those festivals in England that were legendary that a lot of people never got to go to, but they were in the air. And then finally, when it came back around again in the late 1990s, but especially the 2000s, the whole festival business picked up and started up and is still huge to this day.
Sure.
Coachella, those guys have done an amazing job.
Massive one.
Yeah.
Question. In the 90s, it seemed like ticket prices really jumped. I'm just kind of curious if you have any insight on that. I think the first concert I ever saw that was pushing $100 was the Eagles at Sun Devil Stadium, probably 94-ish. Hell Freezes Over.
I can't. That wasn't my show. I don't know about that one. I remember in 1995, and it was ballsy, but it wasn't ridiculous. Was the Page and Plant show? Top ticket price was $50 in '95.
Penny.
Right. And that was the one where they had the Egyptians and everything. And
the big ensemble.
The Middle East stuff. It was fantastic. What a show that was.
I think that was at American West.
Yeah. I don't know. Somewhere it was definitely somewhere in the '90s. I think when the consolidation started up, when the people started gearing towards national tours. So, and it was like the precursor to SFX, which became Clear Channel, which became Live Nation. But there was a lot of people that were involved with SFX that went to Clear Channel, that went to Live Nation. I was one of them. But there's other promoters around the country that did that. But what they instituted was a national office for buying tours. So rather than me calling up Fleetwood Mac's agent and booking Vegas and Phoenix and Tucson and Albuquerque, for example, they would call one guy in LA and he would route the whole tour over the whole country. Mm-hmm. And in order to get all those shows, you were going to be running into competition from some other promoters, local promoters who were in those markets that have been doing those bands forever. So how do you get those shows? Overpay them. How do you pay for those shows? Charge for the tickets.
Sure.
And that's the long and short of it. What happened? It's just more of the of escalation in prices and in costs. And it's not just inflation. I mean, it was self-created by competition. And there's nobody there, and there shouldn't be. Nobody's there to say you're charging too much.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of a self-policing business. The bottom line is if I buy a show and I put it on sale and you buy a ticket and it sells out, was I wrong to charge that much? No. Morally, am I okay doing that? No. You're ripping everybody off. But the bottom line is, look, there's only so many stars out there that play the music that we want to hear, and to get them off their butts wherever they live and to get them out to tour, they're not coming out to break even. They're not coming out to make hamburger money. They want steak money. Absolutely. These guys want it, and they can't make money off their records anymore. So they got to make their money off their live shows. And if and when they can do it, they're doing it. On the upper echelon, could the Rolling Stones or Paul McCartney or somebody, could they lower their ticket prices in those stadiums? Yeah, I think they could. But, I don't want to second guess those guys. They have their reasons. Most musicians were poor growing up. And just because you get rich later in life doesn't mean you forget being poor. You just don't. I mean, I was poor. I don't forget that. And I'm respectful of it. And but once you start making some money, You know, it's like you want to get what you're in line for. Otherwise, you know, somebody's running over you. I mean, imagine Paul McCartney going, "What's Mick Jagger charging?" You know, I mean, but that's what they do. You know, it's like people, it's just regular. It brings everybody back to being human. That's really what it's about. If you can charge, you know, if you're Paul McCartney and you charge $200 for a front row ticket, and some schmuck goes out and buys that ticket and sells it for $2,500, who's the schmuck?
Yeah.
We are.
Paul.
Well, no, Paul is, and that's the way that's the way they figure. It's like, look, they'll be the first to tell you tickets are out of line. They will. They'll say we charge too much for tickets. But what's the answer? How do you get tickets in people's hands who are real fans, who aren't going to go out and do the same damn thing the scalpers do?
Oh, right.
Because it's just too tempting. I mean, and the stakes are too high. If I could buy a ticket for $25 or $50 and get $500 for it, I'd be tempted. You know, and that's what happens with people. Yet here on our side of the fence, we're comparing Peter and Paul of like, how much did they charge for tickets? How much did they charge for tickets? You know?
Mm-hmm. Okay, well that shines a lot of light on that, because I always wondered about that, because it just seems like things jumped in the 90s and they never went down. You know, looking at my stubs from the 80s, everything's like 15 or 20 bucks, you know. It's like, wow, what happened here? So that's cool. Have you got a few more minutes?
So John Boy, I'll tell you what, I've got, let me see here. What did I just do? Here we go. Do you know what, Sean? I got another thing like right after you, but if you want to talk some more, either later or tomorrow, I'd be happy to join you for some more.
Okay. Well, what are you doing?
I'm easy. I'm easy about talking. They booked me up a little. I think I'm gonna have to stop them from booking me so close.
Oh, I hear you. Well, I do a lot of these, and a lot of times it's just 30 minutes, and they got them lined up like planes on the runway waiting to take off all afternoon.
Yeah,
So that's not
true.
unusual at all. Well, why don't we wrap it up for now, and I'll reach out to you and see if we can't set up something and talk about part 2.
I would love to. It would be my honor.
No, great. All right. In the meantime, where's the best place to get the book?
There's 2 places, dzplive.com, Danny Zelisko presents live.com. And if you want, I'll sign it for you. Tell me what you want to write, or I'll make up something. Otherwise, Amazon has it as a Kindle, and they also have it as print on demand. I think you can get the print on demand here, but it costs a little bit more. But it's in a different size. I'll show it to you.
Okay.
It's like this.
Okay. Yeah.
As opposed to like this.
Right. Okay.
Right.
And this
so
is
the original book is like this, but for Amazon, they had to have it like this so I could do a Kindle.
I get it. Okay.
So then, but I had to reformat the whole thing. So I printed some books like this, and it's like a completely different book with the same stuff in it. It was fun to do that. It have 2 different versions, but they're basically the same, except this one has more pictures.
Okay. Well, there's tons of pictures in it, man. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like
when we reformat it, I have to open a whole bunch of open spaces. So I had to fill it. Sweet. No problem.
I realize I actually have a show to do tomorrow. I'm chatting with Kevin Godley from 10cc.
Wow.
Yeah. He's got to do
one of my idols. I love him.
Oh, really?
Tell him Arizona wants to know when he's going to come out and tour.
Okay, great. Well, he's got a new solo album that's I don't think he's ever had one that he did just by himself. So that's kind of,
I'd love to hear it. He's a genius.
Oh yeah, he sure is. I'm so excited to talk to him.
I love him.
Excellent. Well, I will pass along the words. And should I just contact the same people that I talked to set up this interview, to set up another one?
Yeah, you know what? That's the best thing, because they got the schedule, but you can reach to me at my name at Gmail. Danny Zelisko at Gmail.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, I'll just write you directly. Maybe we could set up something for next week. How's that sound?
Great. I'd love it.
I enjoyed it. Well, thank you for doing part 1, and we'll do a part 2 very soon.
All right, Sean. Good to see you.
Take care, Danny.
See ya. Ciao.
Talk to you soon.